Welcome back, everyone. I'm Cyrus, and today we have a question that I'm asked absolutely all the time, especially by new managers or folks who are considering the management career path. The question's super simple. It's, as a manager, how much should I be coding on a day-to-day basis? This is an interesting one because, in my opinion, there's no perfect answer. There's no perfect amount or percentage of your time when you absolutely should be coding, but the answer is unequivocally yes, and it's yes for probably a pretty good percentage of your time, in my opinion at least. Naturally, the next question is, well, why? Why is it so important for me to continue coding with a good percentage of my time now that I have all these new responsibilities? There are at least maybe 4 or 5 reasons why it's super important. The first is that as a manager, your primary responsibility is to serve your reports. And if all of your reports are frontline engineers and you yourself aren't experiencing their daily developer experience, it's going to be hard for you to stay empathetic to what they're experiencing and make really smart decisions about where to invest time to improve processes or to improve tools, and to really know what your developers are feeling when they come to you and say things like, it's really important that we refactor this particular part of the system. If you're not crashing into that friction on a day-to-day basis, it just gets harder for you to credibly defend those decisions to your partners in product design, your stakeholders, etc. The other piece to think about is that partnership with product and design. Over time, if you're not writing code on a day-to-day basis, or you're not staying close to the code that's being produced, it's going to become harder and harder for you when you're working with product and design and they're asking for estimates about things, they're asking you to gut check ideas that they have for different directions the product can go. If you don't really know what's going on the ground, it's going to be hard for you to think on your feet and be a really helpful partner to your the other creative folks in the room, product design, etc. Another thing to think about is the high impact or the high risk architectural and technical choices that do come up. Over time, if you lose those muscles that keep you in context of the state of the code, how it works today, if you lose those muscles of how to design systems really well, it's going to be harder for you to be more than a facilitator when those kinds of difficult decisions come up. Being able to not only facilitate, as a good manager will do, and make sure everyone's ideas are heard, but also be able to critique them and challenge them and drive the conversation in interesting directions is a valuable skill. You don't want to lose that. That's 2 parts, right? That's not only having the technical skills to be able to evaluate the decision, but also having the context of the state of the system and really knowing kind of where you're migrating from and what you might be migrating to. And lastly, this is sort of a long-term thinking piece. If you're early in your career and you've become a manager, you've been given management responsibilities, maybe you're at a small and fast-growing startup and you've really proven yourself as an effective engineer and you have a lot of context, and now folks are giving you the opportunity to manage or be responsible for a broader group. You want to make sure that you don't dive into a focus on management skills and start atrophying or losing your technical skills really early on in your career. You never know what twists and turns your career is going to take, and if you're in your 20s and you've essentially stopped developing your technical skills, that's going to make it harder for you to jump into all sorts of different roles that might appear, opportunities that might appear for you later in your career. You don't want to go 2, 3, 4, 5 years without credibly coding important things. You'll just lose your touch. So the second piece comes up now as like, well, how much, right? If we agree that you should be coding still, how much time should you dedicate to that versus all of your new management responsibilities? Now, this is really going to depend on the specifics of your company and your team composition and all of that, but as a general rule of thumb, I like to tell folks that are new managers, or kind of new frontline managers of maybe one team, but they should still be coding at least 50% of the time. And that 50% of the time can include things like code review, working through architecture diagrams or architectural designs with folks on the team. But you don't want it to drift all the way towards just code review and feedback on architectural designs. You want to make sure that within that 50% of your time it's laser focused on the code, the product itself, that maybe with at least 35–40% of it, you are yourself actually writing code. That balance will change over time, but aiming for that is a good rule of thumb and a good target, especially in your first role as a manager. A lot of this advice has been aimed at kind of a first-time manager, someone who's new to the role and maybe is managing just one squad or team. But over time, your role is going to change and it's going to grow ideally. Maybe you start managing a couple of teams, and maybe over time you're actually managing managers. And when that happens, naturally, the amount of time that you can commit to coding is going to go down, because the amount of time that you're spending on management and more strategic, longer-term planning-related initiatives is going to go up. But nonetheless, always make sure that you're reserving some time to stay coding. If you can't get it at work, then make sure you're doing it outside of work, because all of those points in the beginning still apply. As you become a more and more senior leader, you're still going to want to participate in high risk and high leverage technical decisions. You're going to want to be able to speak and think credibly about the strategy for the technical side of the business. And so never losing your touch and never losing your muscles is super important, whether you're a first-time manager or you've been managing for years. And that's all for this video. If you liked this, go ahead and give my channel a subscribe or throw a like on this video. I make videos about engineering management, all sorts of tips, tricks, and career advice, and more. So if you liked this one, I'm sure you'll like the others. And thanks for watching. See you next time.